Well, ladies and gentlemen, we do have more good news out of the state of Virginia. Donald Trump, seemingly within shouting distance, the new Rasmussen poll has found a 3 point lead for Kamala Harris, which really is in line with a few of the other polls that have come out of Virginia that is getting to be within the margin. And so we're getting great early voting numbers, great enthusiasm in the heavy Republican districts in Virginia, and it's coinciding with a very slight Kamala Harris lead by 3 points. Certainly, I think everyone still expects Harris, to win the state and be the favorite. But if we keep seeing polls like this where it's +2, +3, if you get some real enthusiasm on election day, that is a state that Donald Trump very easily could flip by half a point or by a point to a point and a half. In 2016, it was very close. 2020, the Democrats expanded their lead significantly, but we saw what happened with Glenn Youngkin. He's endorsed Trump. He's got an approval rating +15 in the state. He's going to have some impact, and they've changed the way they do it in terms of the ballots. Virginia is looking very good. You can also see Rasmussen has updated other polls in Arizona. They've got Trump +2. In Georgia, they've got Trump +3. Those are two very realistic scenarios. Michigan, they have Harris +1. That's really what we've seen when it comes to the Rust Belt or like the swing states. Michigan, a little bit harder to win than a Georgia and Arizona, a North Carolina where they've got Trump +3. They have Pennsylvania as a tie and also Wisconsin as a tie. So I would say when it comes to Rasmussen, those are not crazy numbers at all. And remember, Rasmussen overall did underestimate Trump slightly in 2020, but they were one of the top 5 most accurate pollsters in 2020. Everyone thinks they're this Republican, bias, pollster, but in general, these seem like very realistic numbers. Michigan, a little bit more liberal than the other Rust Belts. 2 of the Rust Belts tied. I would argue Trump is going to win Pennsylvania and possibly Wisconsin, but you can understand polls to where they're tied. It's just when you get these polls, these liberal polls that have Harris up by 4 or 5, it skews the numbers and it ruins all the models because the models will interpret those numbers as, oh, Harris has got a big advantage in some of these states when really it's just a bad poll. These seem very realistic, but it's just interesting to see Harris, only up 3 in Virginia, but up 1 in Michigan. Could it possibly be that maybe Trump's actually up in Michigan, or could it be that Virginia really is switching to becoming a pure swing state this election cycle? It'll be interesting to follow that and see. We've also got Donald Trump. This is a big update here. Big threats on my life by Iran. The entire U.S. military is watching and waiting. Moves were already made by Iran that didn't work out, but they will try again. Not a good situation for anyone. I am surrounded by more men, guns, and weapons than I have ever seen before. Thank you to the Congress for unanimously approving far more money to Secret Service. And so, like I've said in the past, the absolute worst case scenario is imagine if something happened to where Trump was assassinated and they blamed it on Iran, and it would kind of be like a situation where the media just blames Iran, liberals get to walk away guilt-free, and then we go to war with them. And like the last thing I purposefully don't talk about the Middle East because I hate talking about it. I want the United States to leave the Middle East and never come back. Obviously I have no ties to Israel. I understand people that do, and they feel passionately about it. But it's just such a mess. It is seriously such a mess. The Middle East always has issues. There's always huge problems, and the United States involving themselves in it makes it far more worse, especially considering our military might. This is a big problem. And if something were to happen, the worst case scenario is, it's caused by Iran. The liberals can say it wasn't us. And then, you've got all these Republicans hating Iran, and it becomes a huge problem and a potential war. That would be absolutely horrible. This is a hilarious video. You've got MSNBC talking to voters about, what do you think about January 6th? And listen to what this dude says.
And talk to me about your level of interest in the criminal charges and so forth.
February 6th?
January 6th.
He's like, February 6th? Dude, they were liberals. You're talking bad about liberals' religion. They're all atheists, so they have to worship something. They all worship January 6th. They're obsessed with it. And this dude comes out, this is a union worker, and he's like, February 6th? And it's like she's trying to oh, how bad was January 6th? They won't even...
So I remember that day. I know he was the standing president. I'm not
February
familiar
6th?
with the charges that are being brought against him for that. I don't I'm not following that charge. Or
Yeah, well, I don't know if these people are following what's happened recently about January 6th, but it's come out that Trump, I mean, if they would have listened to Trump, there wouldn't be a January 6th. Isn't it funny how that works out? Well, it turns out that 3 days or 4 days before January 6th, according to transcripts, Trump said, do whatever you have to do to keep it safe. There's going to be a big protest on January 6th. Bring in the National Guard, bring in active duty soldiers. But liberals said, no, we want January 6th to be the Reichstag fire, make it as bad as possible, then blame it on Trump and ban him off of all of social media. And see, that's why January 6th is just so ridiculous. February 6th? February 6th? And then this lady's like, she's trying to like, no, it's January 6th. It's so bad. January 6th.
Okay, so when I say January 6th,
January 6th.
what do you think?
Oh, I just remember seeing it on the
Nancy
news, like all
Pelosi?
the riots and stuff. Don't really know what it was about or what happened.
I think of Nancy Pelosi.
How did it make you feel when you saw it?
I was very sad. I was scared about Nancy Pelosi's safety. We've got this, which swing states will go to Trump, and I think all these swing states will go to Trump. Look, Trump's going to win Pennsylvania by 1.5 to 2 points, North Carolina by about 3 points, Georgia by about 3 points, Nevada by about half a point, Wisconsin by about a point, Michigan it's going to be very close in Michigan, Arizona by about 3 points. That's what I would say when it comes to that. These are more good early voting numbers for the Republicans. You can see the crystal ball model for Virginia, Democrats around 60%, Republicans at around 40%. The numbers out of Virginia are very encouraging. And again, we have to factor in, well, some liberals that did early voting and mail-in 2020, they're going to do day of this time around because they're not as scared. But still, with Glenn Youngkin and everything happening there, I think Trump's going to go to Virginia at least once, maybe 2 times with Youngkin, with Tulsi Gabbard, and that's going to be huge. And so obviously, I'm sure liberals still expect to win the state, but it's another avenue for Trump that we really aren't seeing for liberals. It's not like liberals they're trying to do it with like Florida and Texas. It's just not going to happen. There's no way. And I guess they could say the same thing about Virginia, but I don't know. Because like I know for a fact that Trump's going to win Florida. And there's crap polls that come out that say Trump's up by like 1 or 2. And the same thing with Scott, who's up by like a point. It's all crap. He's going to win it by like 7 or 8 points at least. DeSantis won it by 20 points. You could argue, well, he's an incumbent. It doesn't matter. You win a state by 20 points. There's not going to be that big of a discrepancy with the midterms versus an election. So Florida is not a swing state. Texas is not a swing state. Virginia seriously could be a swing state. I mean, we've seen so many positive polls out of there. We've got Alex Soros honored to host Tim Walz. The definition of evil. All of this is so evil. Oh my God. I was born in a small town. Like, look at Tim Walz again. Remember at the DNC when Alex Soros was courting all the liberals and taking photos with them almost to like show his trophies off that he just bought. And he did it with Tim Walz, and Walz looked like a 3rd grader, and his teacher was Alex Soros. Look at Walz. Look at Walz. He just looks like God, he looks so weak. Oh my God, does Walz look weak? Look at this. Look at the posture. And then wait, what is he showing? He's got blinds up. It's just all so horrible and so evil and really, really bad. Historical trends, party ID, and popular vote based on regression analysis using Gallup's party ID and historical election results. A Republican +3 environment in 2024 projects a 2.5-point national popular vote margin in favor of Trump. So wow, this would be crazy if it ends up happening. Look at 08. Democratic advantage. Yeah, so this is just explaining what I had talked about yesterday in terms of Gallup getting the popular vote right. In 2008, they had an 8% or 8-point lead in terms of Democrats over Republicans, and it translated to an Obama victory by about 7 points. In 2020, they had a 5-point Democratic advantage in terms of just the overall electorate, and Biden won by 4.5 points. In 2012, they had a 4-point Democratic pro-electorate, and Obama basically won by 4 points. 2016, 3 points. Hillary won by 2. 2024, they have this time, which is so crazy when you compare the last 4 election cycles, all having a Democratic advantage by 8 points, 5 points, 3 points, or 4 points, 3 points. Now it's a Republican advantage by 3 points. My goodness. You could say that's an outlier poll, and maybe Gallup it'll adjust, but even if it does adjust to being like Trump Republican +1 or even Democrat +1. That's still really good numbers for Trump as long as it's not inaccurate. And recently it hasn't been inaccurate. Look, it's been within a point, 7.28, 4.55, 3.9. I mean, it's pretty much every time over the last 4 election cycles, just in terms of historical party ID trends, Gallup has been accurate within 1 point in terms of the general popular vote. So even if Gallup releases another poll in their final poll and it's Republican +1, so Republicans would be going down by 2 because right now they have it Republican +3, that's basically still a guaranteed victory for Trump. This Gallup poll could be the clear ticket into showing us, because of how accurate it's been in terms of just the party ID trends to go along with the election results in terms of the popular vote, this could be our ticket to a Trump victory. If Trump can maintain a lead, even a tie when it comes to the final Gallup poll, that's a Trump very likely victory because they get it normally within a point, at least the last 4 election cycles they have. If they're able to do that again and the final poll gets released and it's a tie, it's a Republican +1, it's a Democrat +1, that's very, very, very good news for Trump. I mean, sure, they could be off by a lot, but looking at their historical accuracy, they've been within a point. So these are really good numbers to look at. But either way, guys, it is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.